it's fine to just post the ratings. But, like, it is another situation than pretending like Caitlin Clark doesn't exist.
Noticed or heard about it, but during the game, Caitlin got honored as the WNBA Player of the Year in the ESPYs. Just what does it mean to have her impact so far? I mean, there are a lot of really good players in this league, and she got honored as the best player in the league by the ESPYs.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she continues to get new awards. She continues to break barriers. She continues to do things that we haven't seen before. I mean, you know, obviously you think about the Stewie's MVPs of the league, and you know, championship winners, and Asia's MVPs of the league and championship winners, and of course Sue Bird, who was sitting, you know, in the building today. And you know, Caitlin is so fortunate, as well as all these guys, really. I mean, that they don't know anything any different than the WNBA.
Told the world that the 2025 WNBA All-Star Game scored historic viewership. It was a bold, triumphant headline designed to prove the league is a runaway success. But behind that single headline is a story they are desperately hoping you won't look into. They're running cover for the WNBA, hiding a catastrophic ratings drop that exposes an uncomfortable truth about the league and its players. This wasn't an accident or a simple press release. It was a deliberate deception, and once you see how they did it, you can't unsee it. And the fans who noticed it immediately are calling it out for what it is: a coordinated effort to erase Caitlin Clark from the narrative.
I just said we would not be talking about Caitlin Clark the way that we do if it wasn't for that moment with Angel Reese. And I will die on this hill.
The new fans are sucking life out of the WNBA right now.
We'll start with you, Kels, because Lord Jesus, your team and their fans,
Jesus,
they be getting up in everybody's business.
I think so many fans, you know, feel they have the freedom to say whatever they want to us, and unfortunately, there's a lot of nasty things that come with it. You know, they don't have people coming to their job saying these nasty things. So, yeah, we definitely have to protect the players better.
Let's start with ESPN's statistical shell game. In their official report, they celebrated the WNBA's skills and three-point contest, noting it was up a massive 89% over last year. They proudly compared 2025 to 2024. But just a few lines down, when reporting on the main event, the All-Star Game itself, they suddenly changed the rules. The comparison year was no longer 2024. Instead, they wrote that viewership was up 158% versus 2023. Anyone with a basic understanding of media knows you compare this year to last year. So why the sudden jump back in time? The answer is simple and devastating. Last year's All-Star Game, the one that featured Caitlin Clark, pulled in 3.4 million viewers. This year without her, it managed just 2.2 million. That's not a historic success, it's a 36% collapse. Over 1 million viewers vanished. By selectively changing the comparison year, ESPN turned a massive failure into a misleading triumph. But this wasn't just a one-time mistake. It was part of a much larger and far more deliberate pattern.
I can't imagine, folks, you know how many NBA players can get injured? And the prices would never drop to this low. LeBron James can be injured, Steph Curry could be injured, Kevin Durant could be in, and the prices still will not drop to be this low. $75? Folks, I'm sure there's some high school football teams down in Texas that charge you at least $75 to get to a home game. Three-point contest. ESPN, ABC, and Disney score the historic viewership for the 2025 WNBA All-Star events. Friday, July 18th, ESPN airs the most watched WNBA skills and three-point contest ever, averaging 1.3 million viewers, which is up 89% versus last year's WNBA skills and three-point contest, up 89%.
This statistical sleight of hand has become ESPN's go-to move whenever Caitlin Clark's numbers create an inconvenient truth. After the 2025 WNBA draft, they celebrated a 9% viewership increase compared to 2023. They completely skipped over the 2024 draft because that was Caitlyn's year, which set a record of 2.45 million viewers. Comparing this year to last year would have forced them to report the real headline, draft viewership plummets by 49%. They pulled the same trick during March Madness. Throughout the early rounds, they diligently compared viewership to 2023. But the moment they reached the Final Four, where a comparison to Caitlyn's 2023 and 2024 runs would have shown a 10 million viewer drop, the year-over-year stats suddenly vanished. This isn't reporting, it's narrative construction. They are actively trying to build a reality where the WNBA's growth is organic and inevitable, rather than the result of a single generational superstar. It's the Streisand effect in real time. By trying to hide Caitlyn's impact, they only make it more glaringly obvious. But why go to such lengths? The answer exposes a deep-seated problem within the entire WNBA ecosystem.
All-Star Game ratings from this past weekend was the second most watched WNBA All-Star Game ever, behind 2024, no surprise there. The 2025 WNBA All-Star Game was the most watched program of the night across all of TV. The night, not the day. With 2.2 million average viewers, up 158% from the 2023 WNBA All-Star Game.
This is historic. And they were like, scored historic viewership. How is it historic when it's like half of last year? Last year was nearly 4 million. How is it historic when it's like half of last year?
The truth is, a powerful contingent within the league, its players, and the media that covers it, seems to fundamentally resent the person driving their success. When Caitlin Clark was named Time's Athlete of the Year, the backlash was immediate. There were serious calls to put the entire league on the cover, as if it were a participation trophy. Yet when Aja Wilson or Brianna Stewart land a major cover, no one demands a group photo. The resentment is targeted and it's palpable. It's so pervasive that even Caitlin's own coach, Christy Sides, couldn't offer a simple congratulations for an ESP win without immediately pivoting to credit every other MVP in the league's history. It was a politically negotiated piece of praise, designed not to offend the fragile egos around her. The media perpetuates this, constantly attributing her popularity to rivalries or manufactured moments, anything but her own talent and appeal. And when that narrative fails, the resentment soon shifted from the star player to the very people who showed up to support her.
Well, Uncle KC, ESPN was comparing this year's All-Star Game to 2023. Why? Why in the hell would they do that? I'll tell you why ESPN did this. This is another example of the mainstream media protecting the WNBA. This is another example of ESPN polishing the turd with this dump of a league.
Suddenly, the millions of new fans Caitlin brought to the sport were no longer a blessing. They were a problem. They were labelled nasty, toxic, and even racist. One commentator claimed they were sucking the life out of the WNBA. The Phoenix Mercury's social media team posted a bizarre, thinly veiled message suggesting Indianapolis wasn't a safe city for players, a clear shot at Caitlin's home base. It's a wild, self-destructive strategy. Attract millions of new customers, and then insult and alienate them for showing up. They are trying to have it both ways. Cash in on the growth Caitlin provides while simultaneously punishing her and her fans for being the source of it. This simmering tension was already at a boiling point But with the All-Star Game approaching, it was about to fuel a very public, high-stakes gamble.
The WNBA players in their pregame warm-up came out in these t-shirts, "Pay us what you owe us." And then immediately pivoted to playing the worst All-Star game in the history of professional All-Star games. They took the court in t-shirts. "Pay us what you owe us. We're underpaid. This league has lost millions of dollars, but we're underpaid. Pay us what you owe us." And then they served up a doo-doo sandwich to sports fans.
With the players locked in tense negotiations for a new collective bargaining agreement, the All-Star Weekend was more than just a game. It was a platform. They are demanding a massive payday, riding a wave of media interest that everyone knows is almost entirely thanks to Caitlin Clark. The league owners are aware that when Caitlin is out, ticket prices and TV ratings don't just dip, they crater by 50% or more. So when she was ruled out of the All-Star Game due to injury, the players were suddenly on their own. This was their chance to prove they could carry the league, to show they were worth the money they were demanding. They made their statement before the game even started, taking the court in warm-up shirts that read, "Pay us what you owe us." It was a bold, unified act of protest. It was also a massive gamble.
The
made in
t-shirt,
court of public opinion
just
that
United
about to
front
backfire
was determined this morning that we had a meeting for, and not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that. But no, we were just we had a very that really needed to be mentioned.
After making their grand statement about being underpaid, the players served up what one analyst called a doo-doo sandwich of a game. A lazy, uninspired performance that did nothing to win over sceptical fans. But the on-court disaster was nothing compared to the unforced error that came after. In the post-game press conference, Kelsey Plum decided to take a direct shot at Caitlin Clark. She laughingly pointed out that 0 members of Team Clark were present for the morning meeting where the protest shirts were decided on. She tried to frame it as a joke, but in Caitlin's home market, after an event meant to showcase league unity, it landed like a lead balloon. It was petty, divisive, and incredibly tone-deaf. NBA champion Stacey King said it best. "As you're fighting for better salaries, you're portraying a united front at your biggest event. You still find a way to throw shade at Caitlin Clark. Why?" He called it sad and petty, and he was right. The players had gambled and lost, alienating fans with a lazy game and divisive comments. A 36% ratings drop would have been the final nail in the coffin. That's why ESPN's historic headline wasn't just spin, it was a rescue mission.
Quote, "As you're fighting for better salaries, you're portraying a united front at your biggest event. You still find a way to throw shade at Caitlin Clark. Why?" Stacey King posted. Quote, "Look at Sabrina's reaction to Plum's comment. It says a lot. Some of these girls are really petty, and someone needs to explain to them it's hurting their league, and it's sad to see." No, he's not wrong.
But let's be clear, the 36% drop, as bad as it is, doesn't even begin to tell the whole story of the financial damage. To understand the true cost of Caitlin's absence, you have to look at what her presence delivers. Her regular season games this year have shattered records, drawing 1.7 million, 2.2 million, and even 2.7 million viewers for matchups against top teams. These aren't just good numbers for the WNBA, they are massive numbers for any sporting event on cable. Given that trend, a healthy Caitlin Clark playing in the All-Star Game wouldn't have just matched last year's 3-4 million viewers. It likely would have soared past 4 million, or even higher. This means the league didn't just lose 1.2 million viewers. It lost a potential audience of almost double what it got. This wasn't a 36% dip. It was a 50% crater in potential viewership. It was a catastrophic loss, papered over with a headline built on a lie.
Even without Caitlin Clark, it was the second highest rated WNBA All-Star Game ever, and that is a huge point of distinction. Two things are clear. If Caitlin Clark plays in the All-Star Game, it will set records. But now, because of her popularity, even if she doesn't, it will break records and be the second highest ever, only beaten by the time she played in it. And that matters.
Here's the most mind-blowing part of this entire saga. Even with the massive drop, 2.2 million viewers still made it the second most watched WNBA All-Star Game ever. The only one that did better was the one Caitlin Clark played in. The proof of the Caitlin Clark effect is right there in the numbers ESPN tried to twist. The league is growing because of her. The tide she's creating is lifting all boats. And instead of acknowledging this, they resort to weird gaslighting and petty post-game shots at the one person who is the foundation of their fight for more money. The players are going to get paid. The owners know her arrival has doubled team values, and they want to keep the momentum going. But they could get so much more if they just stopped fighting reality. If they welcomed the new fans instead of insulting them. If they embraced the superstar who is single-handedly giving them this platform. The more they try to deny the Caitlin Clark effect, the more obvious it becomes, and the longer she will remain the only player those millions of fans will ever care about.